Hello and welcome back. I'm Randy Newbert from VoodooFX. In today's video, we'll be starting the final assembly work on the ET mothership. This will be kind of broken up into a series of videos, and I think I'm going to spread it out because this is kind of going to be a lengthy process. So let's get started. Okay, so here is all my parts broken down on the bench for the ET mothership and getting prepared for the final assembly. It looks a little sloppy right now because I just got everything kind of spread out and I'm trying to go through all the parts and figure out what my process is going to be in order to start the assembly work on the lighting. So I've decided that I'm going to take the method that I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way into a few subdivisions of building this and building it kind of as a layered cake version. I'm going to start out really low and build in most of the electronics because this thing will get very packed with wiring as I'm getting closer and closer into the interior. So what I'm starting with is I'm basically going to start with the very bottom landing leg assemblies and then working my way up towards the vents and the actual engine band itself. I'm going to prefab a lot of the engine band motors, and that assembly is one separate section. And then all the other sections are going to be kind of done in little subsections. And then I'm going to work myself all the way up to the top of the dome. And the dome will actually be something that will be removable. So let me get started on this, and I'm going to work my way from the bottom to the top. So here we go. So there's a couple of tools that we'll need in order to start the installation process. One of them is you're going to need a hot glue gun, and a good item to have also is some foil tape, and what I prefer the most is gaffing tape. And these are great for doing all the mounting, and all the essential fitting can be done with pretty much these three tools. And so that's all the tools you pretty much need to do mounting. I glue some things, but mainly it's used with these items here, and then we go from there. Okay, so let me get these tools out. And we're going to start, first of all, I'm going to start with the main base, and this is for the leg assemblies. These have already been pre-taped. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take the pre-wired circuit board, and I'm going to just slowly work my way out of the model. So let me get a little close-up here so you can see a little better. And I'm going to move it out so we can see it right. So there it is, and what I'm going to do is I've already prefabbed a circuit to support the 9 lights and some of the interior lights. So I have 2 boards. This is one of the boards that's going to support some of the lighting, and then this board is solo for mainly all the on lighting that goes for the blue lights and for all those perimeter lights that go around the whole area. And this board will kind of float in the middle of the air here once it's started in place. But let me go ahead and just start assembling some of them, and then I can show you how I fit them. So let me move on to this next scene. Okay. It's always a good idea to check your prefab boards before you do the installation, and it'll let you know exactly what lights and where they're going to go for this certain hookup. And I can see right now this is the first board that's going to go in. These are hallway lights for where he walks down the channel, and these are 3 lights that are made to go for the perimeter area right around the engine pods or the engine bays. So there's your first one. And then over here, I have the secondary one. I'm going to test this one really quick. Make sure everything's on here. And these are all white. And then there's one center light that's in the middle for the impulse engine. But again, these are all prefabricated and ready to go. And so all I need to do is just get these all into place and fit them. And then we can move on to the next stage. All right, so I want to show the first piece that we're going to get into play. I prefabricated this part. This is the lower impulse engine effect. It's 4 of these button cell SMD LEDs mounted in this 4 pattern. And these sit all the way in the bottom, and it's the first piece that goes in. So what I'm going to do temporarily is just tack it in place, but get it into the mix, and then that way I've got it in place, and it's pretty much, it will be the first thing that you need to mount once you've got this thing lit and tested, which I've already tested this, so it works. So then, you know, I'm gonna just temporarily though set it in there, and then I'll work my way out from there. All right, so I've got my hot glue gun warming up, and I'm gonna get ready to do the main hookups, but I do want to mention one thing that's very important. I forgot to mention this. You need a little bit of just standard tape, masking tape, to do some of the temporary things that you want to do. Stuff works great, and put it anywhere. Also, you should have a pair of typical hobby tools, a knife, small pair of needle nose pliers, and again, you know, the gaffing tape and the metal tape really do a great job. You might want to also grab a pair of scissors to trim stuff and cut stuff down as you go. Sorry for the sound of the chair there. So what I'm going to do here is I've decided, I've pre-tested this piece, and I'm going to kind of route the wire off to this side where this is the main ramp area right here. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of temporary fit it in here with a little bit of tape. And it can be a little sloppy. It just needs to hold it in there just temporarily to give me an idea of where all my wires are going. So I'm going to put another one in there just on the other side. And I'll peel this up as I go. So that gives me an idea. So now that I know, kind of have a good idea of where that's going to live, and I know that some of the wiring is going to work its way up the wall here, and it's going to go straight up the top into the, you know, up and over and through the vents. I have to run this one up to a controller board. And then these, I've already pre-picked these. These are the combination of 9 outboard engine lights, and then there's 3 of these white 4.8s for the blue little lenses on the bottom, and that'll take care of all the lighting down there. This one is just on lights. This board in here is has a feature or an effect. So let me get here. I'm going to start over on this side, and I'm just going to pick a side, and it doesn't really matter because I'll still be able to move it around. I prefabbed a lot of this already on board, and luckily these are all fit really well. So what I'm hoping is I can just use a little bit of hot glue and just tack these all into place. And I'll just do them one at a time, and I'll run them around in a circle. So I'm going to start over on one side, and I'll just pick any side. But I'm just kind of figuring out, okay, I've got the bulk of them over here. I can go one there, and I can put one there. And you just kind of, you know, slowly work your way around until you get in, it's kind of nice and comfortable in there, and all the lights kind of fit in good. That's what you're after. And then again, I'm going to say, okay, red's going to be here. I have to get my angle up here a little better. I can't see. There. And the yellow one is going to be, or the white one, right underneath there. Okay, so I got a good idea. If you can see, I'm kind of just working my way around in a counterclockwise direction. It could go either way. Again, there's plenty of extra room in here, and I'm hoping that when we get this mounted, I'm hoping to put the board down here underneath the whole venting section, so that way all the lighting is kind of compacted and all packed into this lower section. If you, again, how I said in the opening of the video, if we do it in layers, we can have little subsections for each zone, and then that way that keeps all the wiring really tight and just builds it up as a little, layered cake, little steps at a time, up until you get into the top of the dome. So anyway, so let me go check my hot glue gun, and let's get a few of these mounted. All right, so we've got these in place, and we've figured a decent pattern to set them in to glue them down. So I've got the hot glue gun all warmed up, and I think I'm ready to start mounting them. So this is where it starts. So what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to put just a little tiny bit right down on the very, very inside edge of the LED, but not really, like in it deep. And then you just kind of hold it there for a little bit. I'm just going to hold it in place. Kind of let it do its thing. You don't want to rush this too much. I like to do this kind of as a slow process. You can come back and add more after. So this is kind of a good way at going at it. So you let that thing kind of tack. And I'm going to put a little bit more in here. So now I'm going to go to the next one. This one's in there a little bit. And you want to be real careful also when you're doing this is to not burn the wire. I've done it many a times where you just don't realize it, but you're really close or tie down on something. You can just get a little bit of the hot end of the tip onto the wire, and then it melts the wire out, and then you hook up everything and you turn it on, and you're like, oh, hey, this light's not working. Well, yeah, you burned the wire. So anyway, it's just something a good rule of thumb to watch out for, and just try to push the wires out of your way before you put that hot glue tip and anywhere near the wire. So that one's good too. And they get, what's good is they get with the hot glue, when it's done right, and just, you just kind of take this process kind of slow. This one I'm going to have to pull it out a little bit in order to add it in. And I got a little hookup here, but it's just hooked up on the glue gun itself. Oops, this one lifted a little bit, so push it down. So you just want to keep a nice, good, even pressure and just keep it on there. And again, just hold it still long enough so it just kind of cools down a little bit. And then you can move on to the next one. Now this one came loose, so I'm not going to worry about that one. And then peel out you get these little spider webs of glue here and there. And I'm going to pick the next wire, which is the red one, because this one kind of flopped out. So I'm just going right down the line as it is on the board. Now this one, I've got a little, I tempt the pad in here, so I have it in my way. So I got to take the tape. And in this case, we just put a little bit of that tape. Gonna move it out of the way. I'm still gonna leave the piece in there just loose. And then I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna resolder or put a little more of this hot glue in there, and that's it. So I'm gonna hold this one in place. And then just work your way all the way through the line. It's going to be, this is not, since I prefabbed all this, that's pretty much ready to go. Everything's been pre-tested. And this makes your job a lot easier when you go to do assembly work. And it's a cleaner process too, overall. Keeping a good, clean work environment when you're doing this is kind of a good rule of thumb. So I'm going to take that temp tape out. Again, you got to pull these little spider webs out. going to find my next wire. Looks right about there. So I'm going to go in here. And again, I'm going to have to get a little better angle here. So we'll just put that in there. And I'm going to put that one in and let that one sit. I think I'm not in the way of the camera here. I should be okay. And then, and let's just say that, you know, this process is going to go all the way through until you get all 9 of these in place. And so instead of you guys sitting here watching me do this tedious one at a time work, I think that I'll switch over to a high speed mode so I can just kind of get through this process. And but I wanted to show you guys the general way to hook it up first, just to give you a really a good way about how I go through the process of actually doing this. So let me switch into a high speed mode here and do a little time lapse, and then I'll stop on my way to show you the next stages. Sound good? All right, we'll see you then. Now that I have most of this wiring managed, and let me, I'm sorry, I'm out of frame there. Now that I got most of this wire kind of down and managed right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed in a couple of nylon ties in here so I can keep all the wiring uniformed and tight, managed well. Always with electronics, good cable and wire management usually gets you through this process really good and makes a very tight and a system that won't have any failure. If you can keep it, you know, you want to leave a little slack in the wiring, but overall you can leave it a little bit loose when you're doing this, and that will get you where you need to go. So I'm going to continue getting this wiring tightened up, and again, just kind of fish it around until you're in the best place, and put a few of these zip ties, and just keep all your wiring kind of as clean and managed as you possibly can get, and just do some of the main areas that are kind of in the way, and that'll keep all the wiring nice and tight. And once I get all the rest of this in, this is pretty much this will take care of all the lower lighting. I think everything will be finished at that stage as far as the lighting goes. So I'll have all the electronics in this lower half and be able to move on up to the next stage, which will be getting closer to the vents. And again, I managed the cabling out here a little better, and I'm going to add this piece on to here. It's just going to just be a little hot glue, and it's going to be put right in there like that. And then that's just going to look downhill like that, and that's it. That's where it's going to be mounted. I'll put a couple lights in here to light this up. I've got these little leg well lights just to run, and that's it for the bottom half. That'll pretty much take care of all the bottom lighting in the where the landing gear is, and that should complete it. So anyway, and then I'll be moving on to the next stage, which is going to be the vent lighting. This will be a little bit more complicated, but I should be able to do it relatively fast. So until the next video, we'll see you then. Okay, so we've basically gotten through the main part of the assembly work and getting all the LEDs mounted and tested all around the outboard lower engine ring. So now I've put the core impulse engine feature mounted. Now I'm going to use this small piece of tubing that I had sitting around, and I'm going to use this for the to simulate the tunnel inside the interior of the ship. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm just going to slide this piece in here and just put a little hot glue in here and mount it. And then what I'm going to do is, after I get the board all in place and mounted, what I'll end up doing is I'm going to put the other board here that will control the landing wells lights, and I've got two little yellow lights that will be here for the walkway or the tunnel, and this should accent it enough and make it look really good. So let me just go ahead and just kind of get that started. And I got to reroute some of the wiring in here because I want to get most of this wiring out of the way. So I'm going to end up tightening up some of these boards. And you also got to remember I need to leave this one long lead out to hook up to the controller board so I can control the effect along with the vent effect for the rear of the core. So I'm going to tighten up some of this wiring and pack it all in here and get this board kind of in place. And then I'm going to come back and I'll clean up all this, and then I'll put the tunnel lights on, and that should pretty much wrap that up.